Hey, what's up, guys? Node Investor here. What is happening, my friends? Thanks for joining. Man, 22,000. Is that really what's on my screen? $22,142 Bitcoin. What a move it's been. What a move. Finally, it's over 20K. I woke up this morning and it was like, oh, well, I missed a 20K party. It was like already at 20.4 or something when I woke up, but I thought, finally, now it's officially in new high ground. I know when everybody was tweeting when it was like 19.9, it was like, oh, we're in new high territory. But I saved the champagne and the fireworks until I saw a 20K number printed. Finally, it's officially new high territory. We've been saying it for years. We were eventually going to see new high ground, and man, oh man, finally here. 2020 has been one of those crazy years, and Bitcoin's getting started on a new bull run as we head into 2021. And so what I want to talk about today, of course, we're going to look at the charts, of course, but I definitely want to share some lessons, some reminders. I jotted them down very quickly here before the stream started. These are just kind of reminders. Many of you are not new to crypto. Many of you have been around for some time. Some of you guys have been following me for since the beginning of time. But I just want to remind everybody some lessons. Remember the last bull. Some lessons that I learned, some things that I'll be doing, and I thought I'd just pass it along, and maybe it'll help you, maybe it won't. Make of it what you will, but I think these are important to talk about. And so we'll be covering that. I've got, let me see here, I've got I got 7 lessons, 7 points that I'm gonna make, and we'll kind of, I'll scatter them in throughout to the stream, so it's not just like sitting through me ranting for all 7 lessons. We'll kind of sprinkle it in here a little bit, but all right, so let's get to it. I'm kind of just buying a little time. I know a lot of folks are just joining here, so we'll get that going. But yeah, 20K, man. I mean, let's look at the weekly chart, because the thing's beautiful here. When you finally zoom out, right, the old number back here, we never actually breached 20K last time, but for all intents and purposes, it was 20K, right? It was like 19.9 basically, and it was a very brief moment. And the party really started down here over the summer, and that was a big breakout point. That break over that 12 mark. We had not seen a weekly close, and I covered that months ago in my last couple videos, that we hadn't actually seen a weekly close over that 12K mark since basically back here, right at the top of the last big run. And so starting to hold over that was going to be of significance, and sure enough, we started that breakout, and it was pretty much just off to the races. I mean, the move has been incredible at how fast it just went up once it broke over that level, and here we are since that point, just a few months away. I mean, afterwards, right? This was late October. I mean, it was a quick move, and here we are, another 84% after that, and just since the low, which was an anomaly, if you will, a panic low. I mean, it's already up 400% since that panic low, but this was very short-lived. But even if you were starting to look at it at 5-6K, I mean, just an amazing move. But start of the year, officially, since the start of the year, about 170% to the positive, well outdoing any major index, but not necessarily outdoing every stock. I mean, you look at things like Tesla, and you look at some of these other big high flyers this year. There's been some 10 baggers in the stock market. So I know when you compare Bitcoin to like the S&P or other major indices and commodities, absolutely it's the winner, single-handedly the winner. But when you compare it to individual stock tickers and names, well, there's some good competition out there. It certainly has been one of those years fueled by the endless money printing, which at this point doesn't seem to have an end in sight. And so here we are, $22,000 Bitcoin. What's my personal target? I was having this conversation with a family member a few months back, right when we were watching this big weekly setup, and I was talking about how amazing this setup has been. It's just kind of ready to pop, and and at the time it was like 10, 11K or something, and I was telling them this is an easy double because I personally expect we'll see new all-time highs, right? So at minimum, we'd get to this 20K mark again. But I was telling them that if we break over that mark, this is a new official bull run, and 20K is not going to be the target that you want to target for like long-term sells, right? And so my target was 50K approximately, is like 49 and change, and that was essentially looking at the total market cap for Bitcoin. And if you look at the total market cap based on the number of coins that are going to be minted between now and the end of next year, that puts it at around $1 trillion market cap for Bitcoin, would equate to just under 50K Bitcoin. And so that's my ballpark number that I'm looking as far as just kind of an easy target, right? So 10 to 50, that's an easy quintuple of your initial investment at that point. But then from there, where does it go? I certainly think we're going to see another 2017 style run with a climactic ending, parabolic run at the end. It's anyone's guess what happens after that, right? Like some people are saying 100,000, some banks of all people are saying 300,000. You've got a lot of billionaire investors, a lot of institutional money that are going to really make this bull run much different than the last one, because the last one was kind of like phase one. It basically took Bitcoin into a household name, right? At the end of the last run, everybody and anybody, my dad, my grandpa, they all knew what Bitcoin was. And so it's definitely institutionalized. It's no longer this obscure asset. It's very mainstream. And so I think you're going to see the final push this phase with institutional money coming in, and that's going to push it to interesting heights to be sure. But a conservative estimate from my perspective would be around that 50K, $1 trillion mark. At that point, if I start taking some of my profits and let the rest run, who's going to be mad at that, right? Like that's going to be my initial approach. So that's those are my thoughts right there as far as like longer term targets. Near term, hey, it's anybody's guess. I was targeting 22K on this initial breakout. That was just a measured move from this small ascending base pattern, which is a continuation pattern from what we've seen here after the last run. It was nice, right? Right into Thanksgiving here in the US. We saw this little pause, shakeout, made a higher low here, and just kind of had the signature of an ascending base. And sure enough, it popped, and a measured move on that was right around 22K. We just hit that. So it's going to be interesting to see if we finally get a little breather, another sideways action, or another pullback. So that's what I'm looking at. Let me see if I can catch up on some of these comments here. I've been talking for a little bit. And if you just joined us, what I'm going to do here throughout this stream, we'll be looking at some charts. I'll cycle through the big cap names first, mostly USD pair, but I'm going to look at the BTC pairs, which I have up right now because, hey, as we all know, there's no love for the alts right now. I mean, you look at some of these charts, and for the most part, they're all going in the wrong direction when it comes to Bitcoin, and it's just been the story of the last several months with Bitcoin taking off. That's been by far the strongest thing. There's very few alts that are in new high ground, much like Bitcoin. And so, okay, congratulations. The maximalists have won. Bitcoin has won. Okay, we got that. But we'll take a look at some of those after we look at the USD pairs. But there we go. So let's talk lesson number 1. So I've got 7 lessons for those of you that are just joining. 7 lessons that these are kind of more like notes, reminders that I just want you to be cognizant of, things that I'm thinking about as we go into the next bull run, right? Which this is clearly a new bull cycle here, a longer term bull cycle. I'm not talking about like a 2 or 3 month cycle, but clearly it's going to be a longer term bull cycle. And so 7 lessons to consider. And these are really just, when I say lessons, they're reminders of the past. Thinking back at 2017, for those of you that were around, what would you have done differently? What would you have approached? How would you have approached the markets if if you could do 2017 again, well, you may have that opportunity again. So this is what we're looking for. So some bull run lessons. I'll start with number one, and then we'll take a break and do charts, and I'll try to get through all 7 as quickly as I can and not ramble too much. Lesson number 1, hold more, trade less. And so most of you guys know about the Pareto principle, right? The 80-20 rule, all that good stuff. Here's the thing to keep in mind. When there's an asset class, be it Bitcoin, a crypto bubble, real estate, stocks, it doesn't really matter. There's kind of this rule of thumb that says, 80% of the move comes during the last 20% of the time, or even 90% of the move comes during the last 10% of the time. And what that means is, in terms of price gain, it tends to happen in the final innings of the bull move. And we've seen that over and over again, and that's why charts have that look, especially when you take the log off. They have that Eiffel Tower look, where prices run up, run up, run up, run up. And if you remember the last bull run, right, we went from 1K to 3K, and then from 3K to 5K, and then from 5K to 10K or 7K, and then it was literally 7K to 20K in no time, right? It was literally a matter of 4 or 5 weeks, and price just exploded. And this parabolic move is very common in those, climactic cycles where you have that final blow off top. Nobody knows how high it's going to go, but it's like this. It's climactic, it's parabolic. You don't know how soon it is from a price perspective, but you can pretty much bet from a time perspective, the end is near, right? And so it's dangerous to short into this by all means. Like you're running in front of a train, but you do know that, hey, the end is coming up soon. And so that's what I mean by that last 20% of the price comes, or the last 80% of the price comes at the last 20% of the time. And so the name of the game when you're expecting a move like that is to weather the storms along the way and accumulate the dips, because you know that at some point you're going to hit that rocket and it's just going to take off, and you want to be on for that ride, but you also want to be ready, because that's when it's going to be time to start cashing in some chips. And so lesson from the last bull, 80% of the move comes during the last 20% of the time. Try to ride it out until then. Remember the last one played out as well, right? There was, those wiggles, there was the FUD, there was the news, the regulation, there was all kinds of stuff. But if you kind of just zoomed out and focused on the higher time frames, the dailies and the weeklies, you probably did okay. The trend is your friend, so you probably did okay. If you're staring at the 5-minute charts, 30-minute charts all day long, it's going to be a long bull season. That's one thing that, I'm going to do differently this time is I'm going to sleep more. I'm not going to stare at the charts 24/7. I'm going to continue, as I have been for the last several months. I'm going to continue to focus on the higher time frames, right? What are the trends on the weeklies? What are the trends on the dailies? And that's really, it's going to give you the biggest benefit there. So that's me, of course. If you're trading on leverage, if you're looking at higher time frame, shorter time frames, then it makes sense, right? Like you got to focus on the shorter time frames if you're using leverage and margin and all that good stuff. But I'm not talking about short-term trading. I'm talking about the long-term hold. And that's going to be more important. So hold more, trade less. Keep that in mind, right? Like one thing I noticed last time towards the end of the run is a lot of traders that had trading accounts were regretting, how much Bitcoin or ETH or Litecoin they had at one point that they don't anymore. And you have to make that separation mentally. Like, this part of my portfolio or this account or this wallet is just long-term hold stuff. Like, you don't really care. You're kind of accumulating, waiting for that climactic run, and you're just looking at higher time frames for signals. That's completely separate and completely different strategy than a trading account that perhaps uses a margin and you're looking at, capitalizing on the shorter term moves, which is just fine because some of those shorter term moves can be very profitable, right? When you get a 16% move to the downside or a 20% move to the upside on margin, that's some fantastic trading opportunity. But it's two separate things, right? When I'm trading, I don't care about the price. It's primarily a cash account type of approach. You don't care about when you got in, when you got out. It's all about momentum and volatility. Like, that's really it. But when you're looking at the long-term holds, absolutely, you're caring about price and dollar cost averaging and buying dips and all that stuff. So two totally different things. Just a lesson to keep in mind. So that's lesson number one. Let's take a break and let's go to some charts here. Let's go to the big cap USD pairs. Everything's going to be, from a USD perspective, everything's going to be looking this way because, you know, Bitcoin is lifting the tide, if you will. So even Ethereum has broken out of this ascending pattern as well. The resistance level to be watching was at $620 mark. First resistance was down here. I think I tweeted this. I mentioned this. But that $600 mark was the first resistance. And sure enough, that's how it played out. We bounced, paused just under $600, consolidated, and then pop right through the upside. And so these lower end resistance levels are much nicer than kind of trying to catch the official breakout point. And so that one's playing out nicely. A measured move on this bad boy here. Let's go. I'm going to do from here a little bit more conservative. I'm not going to use the full width of the triangle there, but not that. This that's going to put ETH at around, about 720 bucks. That's what I was looking at. If you look left, let me go to the weeklies. Right, there's this resistance point right around this 700 to $800 mark. So let's go to the daily. What does that look like on the daily? But there's not much resistance on ETH for quite some ways. But yeah, basically the same point. So 720 to around 820. And so that seems to be a pretty good measured move on the ETH side of things. It just kind of depends on what Bitcoin does. What I'd like to see Bitcoin do here is, have its run, do its thing. It's already hit that target I was looking for at 22K. I'd like for it to just kind of settle out on the 4-hour of the daily again and just give us one of these little tight consolidations. If you see that, I would expect we would see the altcoins start to bounce a little bit from the BTC pairs, and that might that might turn into those USD side having a nice move. Another couple ons here. Looking at Cardano, still hasn't broken out. You can say it's breaking the trend here today. If you're looking at it horizontal, right, that's right around that 17.4 cent mark. But you're getting an early signal here with this break of trend and everything else moving. But we'll look at the BTC pairs because that's a different story right now. EOS, looking at EOS, again, has been in consolidation mode, finally seeing a little bit of a lift with Bitcoin. But man, oh man, that BTC pair has not turned the corner just yet. ETH is probably the stronger of the bunch. Link has been in consolidation mode here. I'm going to go to the weekly chart after that massive run we saw in the summer. Ooh, not that one. Sorry about that. Still in consolidation mode here on this weekly chart. So keep an eye on it. I was really watching that Link BTC pair, and it was right at resistance or support, excuse me, and it just never wanted to turn the corner there. So no love yet. We'll see how that one turns out. And Litecoin, looking at Litecoin, this one has been showing a little bit of relative strength here today, tomorrow, or today, yesterday. We'll see how it looks tomorrow. But Litecoin, BTC as well, looking like it's ready, maybe ready. I mean, all of these are still they're still, the trend, the macro trend is lower lows and lower highs. So it's too early to say that they're done. But when it starts to get choppy like this, there's a little bit of a battle going on here. And so I'm keeping an eye on these for some signals that we're finally done and ready to start turning the corner and outperforming Bitcoin, maybe. Smash that like. Had to drink a sip of some tea there. So, okay, let's go to lesson number 2 here. Lesson number 2, this one's straightforward. It's simple, but expect big pullbacks. Duh, right? But think about it. During the last run, we saw 30% pullbacks along the way, and most of them happened right at the major milestones that we were looking at, right? The 1K, the 3K, the 5K, this 8K, 10K, there were just big pullbacks along the way, and they were scary. And every time it happened, it was like, this is it. That's the end of the move. We hit 5K. It was a great bull run. Here we go back down to $500 and all that stuff. So expect pullbacks along the way. There's going to be several of them. Eventually, one of them is going to be it. But the signal there is going to be after it goes parabolic and climactic. If it's just kind of a near-term move, then I would think it's probably a normal 30% pullback. But they're going to happen, so expect them. Last time we saw 30% pullbacks, and let's go back in time here and look at the charts from back then. And they look small in retrospect, but during the time they were big and they were scary. Here we go. Let me clear that real quick here, and I'll zoom in a little bit this way to make that clear. But we had that big breakout, of course, that started the bull run. It finally hit 3K, and then it went to consolidation mode. It dropped about 30%, rallied, and then it dropped again another 33% at the bottom. And so that final drop at the bottom was it, but that was about a month and a half of consolidation. And then we bottomed out around that 1900, back off to the races, made new highs just around 5K, and then sure enough, there was another drop here of 39%. It doesn't look very big when you look back, but that was a 39% drop. That was pretty significant. This was on China. This was on, all kinds of stuff. Over here, we had the Bitcoin Cash fork, and just a lot of stuff happened. But eventually, rallied. There we go again. Another drop. Here we go. 27% drop from that point, from basically 7,500 right back to 5,500. And so you get the picture. But there's going to be big pullbacks eventually. One of them is the big one. We go parabolic. We have a quick smackdown, 40% goes up, makes a lower high, and then at that point, it was done. It was over. But there's going to be big ones along the way. So lesson number 2, expect pullbacks. The initial ones, however, are for buying. Dips are for buying. In my opinion, that's how I'm going to be treating them. Okay, let's do a quick lesson number 3. Overbought. It doesn't really mean much when you're in new high ground, right? So if people are looking at the RSI indicator and saying, oh man, it's way overbought, when something's in new high territory, it can stay overbought for a long time. I mean, look at the weekly charts from last time, right? I mean, we hit overbought on the weekly charts, not that one. Of course, that one's basically the same example, but here we go. Hit overbought on the weekly charts here and here, right? So in May, it was overbought at $1,300, and it basically went up to 3K before finally settling down. And then again, it hit overbought at around $2,700, went up to 5K, nearly doubled. And again, it was overbought at $4,200, and then it went all the way up here before pulling back, $7,500. So you get the idea. Overbought doesn't mean a whole lot in a bull market, just like oversold doesn't mean a whole lot in a bear market. You can hit oversold and stay oversold for a long time in a bear market. In a bull market, you can be overbought and stay overbought for a long time before it finally pulls back. And so it's not a reliable signal when you're in new high territory. Same goes true with support and resistance, right? Like there's no more resistance at this point. And so where's the ceiling? Well, the ceiling is just when the market runs out of momentum near term and decides to finally put in a new base. And so that creates a new level of support. So overbought doesn't mean a whole lot in a new bull market. All right, that's the lesson that I learned from the last one and that I've learned over the years with other markets. I already talked about my projections. Price was going to go higher than most people expect, and my conservative estimate is 50K. Again, that's just based on a simple $1 trillion market cap for Bitcoin. And then 100K is the next target, and I think that's going to be institutional driven. Okay, let's go look at some more charts here. I'm going to cover some of the big caps first, and then we'll start looking at the other ones. XRP, I was trading this one for a while. I even had some alerts set up for it. Let me delete that. I don't care for that anymore. This was a pretty good trade, both long and short, by the way. But I missed most of the long. I was watching, you can see my line here. I was watching this at 30 cents, and I was thinking 30 cents is not a bad place to start buying XRP if it breaks out. And then it just like took off like a rocket ship, and I didn't want to chase it. And I thought, it'll pull back. And it was just one of those, like, next thing you know, you're at 80 cents. But it was, caught a little bit of that. Mostly played it to the short side, which worked out okay. but looking like it's maybe finding a low. I mean, this one had some news and airdrop and all that nonsense, but what I'm looking at here is just this broader trend. If it starts to crack above that trend line, then it's probably ready. If we look at the 4-hour chart, that'll give us a little bit more clue there. Let me adjust that line real quick. That's how I'd be looking at it. Like something like that. It's probably cracking now. It's like right at the line. So horizontal price, that's basically around 58, 59 cents. If you look at it from the BTC pair, however, you know, anything below this point right here is just resistance. And so it's bouncing, but if you want to be super conservative, I'd be looking at that, right? 2,900, 3,000 level. Breaking back above that solidifies that it's finally kind of clearing that. So right now it's still kind of recovering from this climactic move and then the rollover phase. Stellar Lumens actually has been pretty interesting. I was watching that one earlier. On the USD side, it's been looking nice. It's been holding up. I've been liking this little base it's been putting in here, and it finally cracked above this near-term resistance, which was right there. And so you can see this was support here, which finally gave way, became resistance. Looks like it's finally clearing that, which was right around 18 cents or so. So I'm watching this one from the BTC pair too. It held up all right, much better than XRP. Stellar Lumens, but it's still very much range bound. You can see how it's below this resistance, finding a little bit of support. So I'm keeping an eye on this one, but I'd like to see it break out of this range. So that's 950 or so on the BTC pair. Speaking of which, the trading bot for BTC, I was watching these. They flipped long on Saturday. And when we're consolidating, I give these a little bit less weight than when we're kind of trending and turning the corner. But the daily one is the one I pay more attention to, because the 4-hour, obviously it's a shorter time frame, so it's a little bit more susceptible to kind of the whiplash effect. But looking at the daily strategy, when I saw it go flat, this was during the consolidation move, and then it finally flipped back long over the weekend. It turned out to be a nice signal there. And the weekend on Saturday for me was the 13th. So if we look at the daily chart, where are we at here? Let me go back to my other guy here. Not that guy. This guy here. That was 13th was on this candle right here. So at the end of that daily candle, that's when it flipped long. And yeah, that turned out to be a pretty good reversal signal right there, where it was flat. Never went short, of course. I mean, it would have had to really break down to start going short signal, but it went long. It was flat here and then decided to go long again right here. So that was nice. Went long, confirmed, good breakout. That one's actually been a good signal. The last time it went long was just amazing. It was back here like October 10th, I think it was. So it caught the long here and just pretty much rode that nice move all the way up before finally going flat. So gonna keep an eye on that one. Seems to be working out pretty good. If you're a subscriber, you should be getting those emails. They're automated. So whenever any one of these signals change, whether it's going long or flat or short, that goes to your inbox. So you should be getting those. Look out for those if you're not. Other than that, but stuff that's trending versus Bitcoin, not a whole lot. There's a couple tickers I do need to add to the universe here, but Litecoin's one of the stronger ones. Theta has been on this list for a while. Monero was on here for a little bit. And then Pearl, there's a name from yesteryear. But let's go look at some of those. We looked at Litecoin. Let's take a look at Theta real quick here. Let's go to the BTC pair, because it's trending versus Bitcoin. So we'll see. I mean, you can see it trying to turn the corner here on the daily. Again, the longer term macro chart had that massive run in September, pulling back since. At this point, honestly, it just feels like a bounce on the weeklies. We'll see if it means anything. I'd like to see like a retest on the weekly and then get going. But certainly the daily chart, you can say, yeah, maybe it is trending a little bit versus Bitcoin, which means it's holding up at least on the USD side. It's keeping up with the level of strength that Bitcoin has shown here. So a little bit of a breakout here on Theta today over that 77 mark, but looking pretty good all in all. nice pair on the nice chart on the USD side as well, with Bitcoin holding up. All right, lesson number, what lesson am I on here? Lesson number 4. Oh, this one. You can't predict the top. So going back to history, right? The last bull market, there was a lot of predictions around where it would ultimately top. And one of them eventually ends up being right, but nobody really knows for sure. It was interesting to see that it literally topped when the futures market started going for Bitcoin, and they sunk it right after that. But at the end of the day, it's like, don't try to time it, especially from the long-term hodl stuff. Okay, if you're trading short-term 5-minute charts, hours, that's something else. But I'm talking about the long term, right? If you've been riding the bull for a year and you've endured 30% pullbacks and you've been at it along the way, there's really only 2 ways to approach it sensibly. The first is, and both of them, by the way, are not all in, all out positions. And really the first way is take some off along the way. You got to have a plan. And that's the key word there. You got to have a plan to take some off along the way. For me, that plan is around that 50K mark. There's going to be a sizable portion of my initial investment that just goes somewhere else. The rest is letting it ride. And after that, when you see the parabolic run, that's probably not a bad place to start looking to exit a little bit more. And then after the top is in place, where it's in the rear view mirror, then you know it's over. But the point with all of those scenarios are, you're never going to get out at the exact top. You just are not. You're not going to say 100% I got out 100% here and I got back in 100% here. That's just not the way it works, right? Like, you're going to take a little bit off at some point, and when you see this big move, this parabolic run, you know, somewhere along here, you just know you're going to leave some on the table. That's just the name of the game. And when you finally see the market turn and it's official, then you're going to get out here, and you know that you're just not going to get out at the exact top, and you would have, you know, you're going to wish that, oh, I should have sold at that point. It's always hindsight, right? 2020. It's like, in retrospect, everybody's a perfect trader, but it's just not reality. So don't try to make it reality. Don't beat yourself up over it if you miss the exact top, because that's just the way it goes. Like, no one's going to get the exact top. So don't try to guess the top. Let's see here. Avoid the scams. Oh my God, I can talk on this one for an hour, but I'm not. You guys get the picture. Avoid the scams. Remember BitConnect? Remember the Ponzi schemes? Remember Chaincoin? Remember the ICO scammers? I can go on and on. Remember the pump and dump groups that still exist, that charge people thousands and thousands of dollars for supposedly inside information that's going to be released to a select group of people that are going to be dumped on. Just, guys, be careful out there. The new bull market is going to breed a new crop of scammers. The scammers will be in force, especially near the very end. And I'm just keeping my fingers crossed that some of these guys that came out right at the end last time don't start pumping their new crypto course here soon. Like, it's going to happen. So, you know, don't pay. I mean, it's okay to pay for people to curate information. It's okay to pay for education. It's okay to pay for some of that stuff, but don't overpay for information that's generally public. Like, there's just some things that people are out there like, oh, buy my newsletter. I'm going to show you why you should invest in Bitcoin. It's like, I already know I should invest in Bitcoin. Like, I shouldn't have to pay for that. like, you know, just keep that in mind. Like, just avoid the scams. I had a family member call me about somebody, I won't mention them by name, but they're a very well-known newsletter pump and dump publisher. Most of you know who they are. They were around the last bull market. During the bear market, they were talking about how they were geniuses and all of their pumps failed. And they're still around. And this family member was asking me, hey, what do you think about this person? And, you know, this person's saying that bull run's going to enter a new, you know, Bitcoin's going to enter a new bull run and a new phase. And, you know, they have coin recommendations and things that they're going to tell you. And I told them, dude, don't waste your money. Like, he's going to charge you $3,000, $5,000 to basically tell you, you know, crypto's in a bull market. Like, it doesn't take a genius. And there is no inside information that this dude has. He's a scammer most of the time. He buys before he announces something and he dumps it. Like, that's just the way it works. And I showed him a handful of coins that this person has pumped, charged people for in the last 2 years. And I showed them all the charts and they were just all horrid. I'm like, most of them were just going in the wrong direction. I'm like, people paid for that. Thousands and thousands of dollars for that. So avoid the scammers. Simple as that. Okay, I can go on and on about this, but you guys get the idea. Avoid the scammers, avoid the phishing, avoid the scam, all that stuff. All right, let's go with some charts here. Oh yeah. Let me delete. We hit our $22,000 mark. That's it. It's over. That was the target. Bull run's over. I'm kidding, but that was quite the nice move. $22,000, right on target. Let's see here. What do you guys want to look at here? NEO, ICX. Okay. And yeah, we'll look at some of those. Atom. Okay, let's take a look at some of these guys. I'm going to look at Atom here first because that was a request early on. I'm going to go to the daily charts and I'll look at the BTC pairs. This one from a USD side, right? A lot of these are going to look positive just because Bitcoin is running so strong. It's kind of, helping keep these buoyant here. But that aside, this one actually looks pretty nice. I like the ascending lows here. But what I want to see on this guy here is take out that $6.20. Let's call it $6.20, $6.15, in and around there. If it's just to take that out, a breakout there would be nice to see. But it's still range bound. And so if we look at it from the BTC pair, no love for Atom, at least for a while. The trend is not your friend, and that's pretty clear here on most of these alts. They're going to look this way when it comes to the BTC pairs. Maybe, you can argue for some bullish divergence starting to show up here, like RSI is making higher lows. We'll see if this one makes a new higher low as the price makes lower lows. So that's the one silver lining that I could say on this guy right now. But other than that, the trend is not your friend. So like if you had to pick between this one and Bitcoin, obviously Bitcoin's the better name. It's been stronger. But the thing with the alts is a lot of them are going to present some very attractive catch-up plays, right? So things like Atom, when they finally do bottom out, if you've missed the Bitcoin move, some of these are going to give you some outperformance near term, and it might be a nice way to kind of gain back some of that Bitcoin on those bounces. But counter trend trading is a little bit more advanced, a little bit harder to pull off successfully over time. And so the trend is your friend generally works the best. So if you kind of find the names that are strong, strength begets strength, and those tend to be the better places to hold longer term. But that's Atom. All right, what else? NEO. Looking at NEO, I'm going to start with the NEO BTC pair, and then we'll go over to the USD side. Again, all of these alts are going to have the same general story, but I am starting to pay attention to some of these because as they're making these new lows, the same thing with some of these divergences are starting to show up. Maybe signaling that the daily charts are starting to get exhausted to the downside. And again, that might coincide with a pause in Bitcoin, might give some reprieve to the alts. Maybe they finally start outperforming Bitcoin to the upside. Paying attention to that. I haven't really made any major moves on the alts just yet. I've been parked mostly Bitcoin and ETH for the most part. I've got a few other small ones, but not big positions from long-term stuff. It's mostly just been BTC. But I'm looking at some of these alts as potential catch-up positions. This guy here, what I'd like to see is a break of this trend line. So over 19 bucks, NEO might finally start its move. And last but not least, let's see here, Icon. Oh man, Icon. Is this new lows for Icon? No, not quite. Not quite new lows versus Bitcoin, but man, look at this break of resistance on the long-term charts or support. Once it broke that zone, man, it's like straight down. It tried to bounce a little bit, just rejected, still going down. And that's just kind of the story for a lot of these names. But maybe it's finally putting in a floor. Time will tell. We'll see. And Lend. I guess Lend changed. I forgot about that. I'm looking at your guys' comments for what else we want to look at. Yeah, look at XRP. We looked at it a little bit ago. Maybe I'll circle back to that one. VeChain, that's a good one. Let's go look at VeChain. And Aunt. There's a name I haven't seen in a while. Let's go take a look at that. So, I probably should cycle through the DeFi names. There's a lot of them on the list, but let's start with these guys here. This one's interesting here. Like, it looked like it was ready to start bouncing versus Bitcoin. Actually, you know, since November has held up nicely versus Bitcoin. A lot of the DeFi names have, and so that's good. I definitely would be paying attention to these, especially if you look at the weekly charts. I mean, they were way overdone. They needed a pullback. They finally got it. Now the question is this a lower high, or does this begin, you know, some sort of like bull pennant that then turns into another, you know, breakout point there? So you want to see it consolidate between this. I'd like to see it kind of bounce, pull back, make a higher low on this weekly, and once it takes out this near-term level, that's going to be positive there. But you'll have resistance here at the near-term highs. What I would expect is if it's going to continue, it's going to be a continuation move. That, like, you would want to see something like this, break out, pause just below there, and then finally get going. All right, similar to like what Bitcoin just did. Those are what you like to see in those kind of moves there. Oh yeah. Let's see here. VeChain was the one I was looking at. VeChain USD. Looking at the tether pair. Look at that. It's like almost at new highs on the tether side. This one's been holding up pretty good here too. Definitely putting in a solid low here on this pullback, trying to bounce. Still above the weekly moving averages, so liking that. If you go to the daily or the 4-hour charts, had a nice move here today with Bitcoin. Let's see how this looks on the BTC pair. Yeah, maybe. See if we can get a higher low finally on this guy. I mean, this daily chart, look at this, just marching straight down. Finally found a low here, bouncing. Needs to make a higher low to convince me. If this pullback here on the BTC pair starts to hold, if it can get above that 94 Satoshi level, then that might coincide with the breakout on the USD pair. So yeah, definitely worth keeping an eye on. Volume is coming in too at the lows, which is encouraging. You're seeing a little spike in volume here near the lows, so maybe it's finally done. A lot of these alts. Here's another one that I was watching, and it's been showing some good relative strength lately, but is Monero, pulling back today. But the longer term charts I've been watching here, because, you know, if you look back at the longer term history, it's found a floor here, you know, around that 6,200 Satoshi level, 6,100 or so. And here most recently in early December, hit it again versus Bitcoin after having a nice leg up. I mean, I'm surprised it gave back that much, but I'm watching it here because it's testing that support, put in a little double bottom here on the daily, trying to rally. And right now it's basically giving a throwback straight to that initial double bottom breakout. So not a buy signal just yet, but I'm going to keep an eye on it. If it starts to bounce off these levels and get going again, I'm going to look for basically a big run on this guy back up to these levels here. So I'm going to be keeping an eye on Monero. If it breaks below that line and retest these, I mean, all bets are off at that point, because this is solid support. If that gives, that's going to be an ugly break to the downside. So going to keep an eye on this one though. On the USD side, you know, it's been looking pretty good as well. Finally hit that 150 target, I believe. Yeah, 150, 160. So has been pretty good. That $100 mark was really your early signal. Pause. It's been a little choppy, but can't blame it with that pullback versus the BTC pair. So Monero. All right, let's see here. I'm trying to keep up with the comments. I apologize if I'm missing yours. Zill. Oh man, Zill. Why has Zill been so strong? I have not looked into Zill, but it just keeps popping up on the Node Insider site. It's been trending for so long, and I'm like, why is Zill so strong? But has been nice move up here since November. If you look at Zill BTC, at least it's holding its own versus Bitcoin. Not exactly huge outperformer versus Bitcoin, but doesn't look horrid like some of those other ones. And, really since that November 25th spike has been a choppy move up, but moving up nonetheless. All right. Let's see here. So I've been streaming for, I don't even know, where's my timer at? Doesn't matter. Let's go to the next one. Avoid the scams. This one's closely related, but manage your risk. 46 minutes already. Okay, cool. I was trying to keep it at an hour tops, so I've got a little bit of time. Manage your risks. There's different kinds of risks. The two biggies are counterparty risk and security risks. Counterparty risk. Exchanges going down. Cryptopia, for example. BitConnect. If 100% of your Bitcoin's in something stupid like BitConnect and it goes down, then that's a huge counterparty risk. So in another way, don't put all your eggs in one basket, right? Don't put all your 100% of your portfolio in one exchange, in one wallet, in one coin, maybe Bitcoin. But other than that, like counterparty risk, it's just something you just got to pay attention to. The industry is still, it's not like 2017 young, but it's, a lot of these exchanges, we saw this year hacks, we saw exchanges get closed. So it's just a thing. It's a reality. Same with theft and security, right? Protect your wallets, spread them out across multiple wallets if you can, multiple exchanges, that sort of thing. 2FA, just if you're not familiar with how to protect and manage some of that stuff, definitely do some reading on it before you throw any kind of large amounts at any one coin or one exchange. And then from a risk management, from a trading perspective, if you're using leverage, don't get liquidated. Like use stops, plan the trade. Don't friggin', just throw it all in at 100% leverage and say, screw it, you only live once, right? Don't do that. Like, be mindful of the managing of risk when you're trading as well. And that's its own lesson in and of itself. But risk management when you come to trading and investing too is one of the most important areas that is probably the most underrated. Like the biggest reasons people lose big is because they don't have a plan. They don't know when they're going to get out if things don't go as planned. They don't know when they're going to stop out. Even if it's a mental stop, they don't have a plan. They don't know how to manage risk, or they don't realize when they're using leverage that if it only moves down 1%, they're going to get liquidated. Like, you just got to know how to manage risk. So risk management, big lesson from last bull market. There was a lot of stories of people who got wiped out, a lot of stories of people who had a big portfolio and lost it all through one of many of these that I have on the screen. So just be mindful of the risk management. All right, and let's do one more, and the last one really, and then we'll call it done on the lessons. So shorting, oh man, it's going to be tempted to short because everything's going to look overbought and it just has to come down, right? Like it's just going to crash any minute now. Like there's no way it can keep going up like this. Just forget about it. When you're in a strong bull run, there's going to be 30% pullbacks along the way, no doubt. Short-term time frames, maybe. But for the most part, like I said, the trend is your friend, and if you go with the trend over the long run, you tend to have better consistency, better reliability in your trading strategy and all that good stuff. And so in a strong bull market, the two default positions for me are either I'm long or I'm flat. Long, flat, long, flat. There will be a time to short again, and that may come after the big parabolic move. Not to say that people aren't going to make money shorting. It's just, it's much harder when you're in a bull market, much harder. So just forget about shorting. That's, again, these are lessons for me. These are notes from the last bull run. If you just tuned in, I'll cycle through them real quick. But basically, hold more, trade less, expect big pullbacks along the way. We saw several 30+% pullbacks last time. Overbought in a strong bull market, doesn't really mean much when you're talking about RSI or stochastic indicators and all that stuff. They can stay overbought for a long time. You can't predict the top, so don't try to time it. Don't go all in, all out. Have a plan. Have a plan. Have a plan. Avoid the scams. I can go on and on about that, but let's not get fired up. Manage risk and forget about shorting for now. That's it. Lessons from the last bull run. Let's go look at Bitcoin. Someone's asking about the 1 hour chart. Is this a reversal? I don't know. Maybe, maybe not. It would make sense if it were. You got, RSI up here in the short time frames, but 10 EMA is still way down here at 21.4. So who knows? Maybe it just sits tight, goes sideways. 1 hour chart, yeah, it's extended for sure, but doesn't mean it just comes pulling back. If you've missed the breakout, you can always look for a throwback. You don't know if you get them every time, but that's something to watch out for. All right, like when you have these big moves, a lot of times they'll give you a throwback, a pullback. Doesn't always go straight back to the exact breakout point, but somewhere between here and there, that 10, 22 EMAs on the 4 hour tend to be pretty decent places to start looking at that before the next move up. So we will see here. All right, yeah, we'll look at the S&P and a few other stock names, but let's focus on some of these before we wrap it up. Ontology BTC here. It was looking pretty good about a month ago, and you can see that very brief, nice little daily run, big outside candle reversal day, bearish engulfing candle here. You can see that it opened right at the last close, went higher, closed below it, and sure enough, that was a big reversal signal, and it's just been straight down ever since on the BTC pair. So much like the other ones that we looked at, until they start giving these nice solid reversals, I'm a lot more cautious on the alts. There are going to be some fantastic catch-up trades when they finally have their day. It's just really hard to guess when that day is going to be. And it's okay. I don't really care to catch the exact bottom on a lot of these moves, because you'll have these big reversals off the lows and they'll have some pullbacks along the way, and everyone's going to be saying, oh my God, it's already up 50% or 80% off the bottom, but then you have the next leg up. And from a trading perspective, that's fine. That's good enough, right? You don't have to catch 100% of the move for it to be worth your while. So, but until then, you're getting some bullish divergences starting to show up on some of these, but they haven't really confirmed yet. The trend is still not your friend. But let's see how it looks from the USD side. USD, at least it's making a higher low. Yeah, there's really not a really clear. This outside day here is a bad bar. I guess the near term one would be this 0.6 cent mark, 0.60 cents there. That'd be the level I'd be watching here on the near term. If we can get above that, maybe it starts to look better. We did Cardano, I thought. Maybe not. Did we? Thought we did. Yeah, we did. We looked at Cardano earlier. It looks like it's a breaking trend here. This is a positive on the USD side, but like most BTC pair, not so bad. Not so bad. It's finally trying to put in a low here. I like this reversal here on the BTC side from a longer term perspective, because this is a clear resistance level. And what you're seeing here is maybe like a head and shoulder type of pattern starting to form. So if you get another dip right here and it starts to turn the corner, that'll look pretty good. So not too shabby. We'll see. This needs to hold up here. If it dips all the way back to the low, then maybe the double bottom's in play. But a breakout or a reversal from here, if it starts to move up towards the line, might be worth keeping an eye on there. All right, let's see here. Oh, let's see. I'm reading a comment. Sorry for the radio silence. DOT. How's DOT look on the USD side? That's a nice potential breakout there on the USD side. It's holding up. BTC, not trending well versus Bitcoin. That's a pretty clear trend right there. So you draw a trend line or you look at the moving averages, that's going to be your signal. And when those daily moving averages finally cross bullish again and the 10 is above the 22 and price is starting to hold above the moving averages, then maybe it's over, right? Same story with a lot of these. Like there's potential divergences showing up, but the trend is still kind of like not really there. Let's go look at some stocks real quick here. So look at the market. I mean, the market. I mean, it's being driven by infinity printing of dollars, and we're in a unique situation. Just like Bitcoin, right? It's new all-time highs. Yeah, you could argue that it's due for a pullback. Yeah, you could argue that there's it's overbought or all that stuff, but it's new all-time highs. There's really no reason for people to sell right now. Fundamentally, there's no reason. The economy, I mean, this year, 2020, has been an insane year from an economics perspective. Remember when we started January, it was like you couldn't hire people. Like it was record employment levels. Everybody had jobs and people were fighting for good talent. And then fast forward 2 months later, and it was like the Great Depression and 30% unemployment, and small businesses are just getting slaughtered left and right. And yet the stock market is at all-time highs. And it's just a mixed economy out there. I know there's a lot of people hurting. There's a lot of people that have had a really rough year financially, let alone all the other chaos that we had to endure this year. But financially speaking, it's been a rough year, but yet the real estate market is booming. Houses in my neighborhood, it's a seller's market. There's bidding wars for properties. Stocks are at all-time highs. And it's just crazy. Just the money printing, negative interest rates. There's no reason to sell at this point. So you're getting that effect. And, you get the dips along the way, but like the S&P just recently broke out here. We'll look at the NASDAQ here, but as long as it holds up, it's going to be interesting to see how that one plays out. I mean, I tend to be more inclined to trade kind of the high beta names, so like NASDAQ type stocks. But even NASDAQ, look at this. This is before the crash, massive drop, and then it's just like straight to the moon. Like it's insane, just the amount of money printing, and that's all driven by the big caps, right? So you got things like Apple, which is consolidating right now, but doesn't look bearish yet. I mean, it's still just pausing. The big dogs, right? Amazon has had a great year with everything going online and retail going online, consolidating. Gonna make a decision here soon, but it's still, this is a inclined bullish pattern at this point, unless it breaks that 2,900 mark. For now, it's still bullish. You got Facebook, very similar pattern. Are they hitting resistance? Maybe, but there's no bear signals just yet. Tesla, oh my God, Tesla has done much better than Bitcoin has this year. You look at Tesla at the start of the year. Where's the start of the year? Down here. And, it's only up 625%. And this is, the split adjusted price. I mean, if you take that most recent split out, that's, basically closer to $3,000 stock. And so I remember during the crash, it briefly dipped back down to like that $400 mark, which is now, $71 split adjusted. But what a move. What a friggin' move. And so, yeah, I mean, everyone's interested in day trading and all that. And hey, even the MJ stocks are showing some life now, right? It's like if you go to the big indices, they look like most altcoins for the last 2 years. And they're looking positive now, and things are looking up for them. There's a lot of interesting things happening here with regards to legislation. So things to keep an eye on going into 2021. What else? I got some names on my watch list, as you can tell. This one's interesting. This is, solid state batteries, but this one just IPO'd in September. Nice move on these bad boys. I mean, look at the IPO breakout was right here, and it's already up 180% in basically a month. Like, fantastic. So plenty to be had. There's Roku, everyone's streaming. There's Netflix ready to break out. We'll see if that one does. Disney is coming back. Look at that, $180. So stocks, what can we say? Printing everywhere, printing infinitum. It's rolling into crypto. You're seeing it in the metals as well with gold. You know, oh, gold. I always crack up when I see tweets about gold is soaring today. And it's like up 1%. And I know that's a lot for gold, but it's like soaring. And then the next day, gold is crashing today. And it's like, you know, gold dropped like $40. It's crashing. But, you know, if you're playing the futures market, that's a lot. But, you know, whatever. It's all relative. Depends on how much leverage you use. That's at the end of the day, that's all that matters. It's all relative. So, but yeah, you know, gold and silver, they're going to benefit. But honestly, any institution that wants gold, in my opinion, is already in gold. But most institutions are not in Bitcoin yet. So I think the bigger opportunity continues to be in the crypto space, namely Bitcoin and Ethereum, because they're going to be institutionalized during this next bull run. And we're going to finally see, or we are already seeing, a lot of hedge funds and a lot of, you know, quote unquote funds going down that path. But I think it's only going to continue. All right, my friends. Let me see here. I'm going to scroll through these quickly, but I'm thinking that's probably it. What do we see on the insider side? Theta, Perlin. If we go to the bot status for the big cap names, I think most of them are still flat or short versus Bitcoin. Weak. Yep, that's pretty much the picture. Monero still long on the daily. Litecoin's long on the daily as of today. That's nice. Stellar Lumens went long today on the 4-hour, but still flat on the daily. That makes sense. And everything else is flat or short versus Bitcoin. And some of these have been short for some time since Bitcoin. Let me see. These all went short today. That was probably with the breakouts. But makes sense with the charts we're seeing. So gonna have to just give it some time before those finally start turning around. Okay, let me see here. So now that we're wrapping up, I think I didn't get to all the names. I know I didn't, and I apologize if I missed yours. I'm trying to keep it at around an hour. I hope the lessons were useful. Hey, we got Michael in the house. Sorry, Michael, I didn't even see your hand wave there. My Aussie friend in the house. Yeah, let's go look at the currencies here real quick. The Dixie. The US dollar is collapsing. So yeah, look at this. I mean, this is what everyone's watching right now. It's like, ooh, what happens when we hit that? I think it'll bounce. They're gonna try to buy it up right here, but then after that, does it crack? And if you're a forex trader, then the big caps, you know, the majors are going to be what you're looking at. So the euro dollar pair, where is it on my charts here? Where's euro dollar? Here it is. Euro dollars are obviously having a show, putting in a nice double bottom, trying to rally. Just like the dollar side, it's hitting some resistance here near term, so that'll be interesting. The dollar yen dropping a little bit there, but man, yeah, that Dixie. It's gonna be interesting because if this drops, you're gonna see gold really pop, and I think Bitcoin's gonna have, you know, just as strong of a move. So it's driving a lot of this here right now. What an interesting world we live. How to watch this live later on? Yeah, you can definitely watch. As soon as I'm done with the live stream, it'll be available in just like a regular video. So you can certainly re-look at any of this stream if you joined later, missed any of that. So, okay, my friends, thank you for joining. I appreciate the comments and the likes. We'll see you all in the next